Hey guys, tonight we are going to ride across Han Dynasty China, not as a general or a poet, but as a humble, overworked, and frankly, underappreciated postal rider. Imagine the air, so cold it feels sharp in your lungs, the only light a smear of charcoal gray in the eastern sky. You feel the rough weave of your tunic against your skin, the phantom ache in your thighs a premonition of the day ahead. This isn't a history lesson about grand battles. It's about the grit, the exhaustion, and the quiet, relentless rhythm of connecting an empire one horse at a time. And just so we're clear, with the bandits, the questionable roadside food, and the sheer saddle-sore mileage, you probably wouldn't survive this for a week. Your phone AS GPS would be useless, and your favorite energy drink is about 2,000 years from being invented. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. It's always fun to see where everyone is listening from, so feel free to post your city or country and what time it is for you. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. The first thing you're aware of is the cold. It seeps through the packed earth walls of the barracks, slithering under your thin wool blanket and settling deep into your bones. There's no gentle alarm, no snooze button to bargain with. The day begins with the brusque clang of an iron pot in the cookhouse and the distant rhythmic thud of a sentry's boots on the rampart walk. You roll off your sleeping pallet, the straw stuffing rustling beneath you, and join the grumbling shuffle of other men waking in the shared darkness. This is life at the Juyan garrison, a remote speck of imperial authority pinned to the edge of the world. Your breath fogs in the air. Outside, the land is a vast, empty canvas of gray and brown, waiting for the sun to paint it with the harsh light of the northwestern frontier. Above you, a line of signal towers, what they call sui, punctures the horizon. You can just make out the dark shape of the nearest one, its beacon fire, which burned through the night as a watchful eye, now just a plume of dissipating smoke. Someone told you once that the best fuel for those signal fires is dried wolf dung, because it burns with a uniquely straight column of smoke visible for miles. You're not sure if it's true, but it sounds exactly like the kind of gritty, make-do knowledge that keeps people alive out here. Stretching the stiffness from your limbs, you pull on your padded trousers and tunic, the fabric coarse and smelling faintly of horse and wood smoke. There are no private quarters, no moments of solitude. The barracks is a microcosm of the army, a collection of men thrown together by duty. Their snores and muttered sleep talk the soundtrack to your nights. It's a far cry from a five-star hotel, but at least the roof doesn't leak. Usually, you grab your boots, the leather stiff with cold, and work your feet into them, the familiar routine a comfort in the disorienting pre-dawn gloom. Your breakfast is a hurried, joyless affair, a bowl of hot millet porridge, bland and watery, which you eat standing up. It's fuel, nothing more. Its only purpose is to quiet the rumbling in your belly for a few hours. The real athletes of the garrison, the horses, get a much better deal, feasting on carefully measured rations of grain and beans. You watch them for a moment in the flickering torchlight of the stables, their powerful bodies radiating a gentle heat. They are the true engines of this empire's communication network, and you are merely their temporary guide. You are a postal rider, a Yuchai. It's a job that sounds deceptively simple. Ride fast, deliver the message. But the reality is a life measured in li, the Chinese mile, and governed by the endurance of horseflesh in your own sinew. Historians still argue whether you and your colleagues were officially soldiers, civilian contractors, or some sort of specialized corps in between. All you know is that you wear the insignia of the army. But your enemy isn't a Xiongnu warrior with a bow. Your enemies are distance, time, and the 1,000 little ways a man and a horse can be broken by the road. Your destination today is south, a multi-day journey towards the heartlands, but your immediate focus is the first leg. In the distance, a massive, unbroken line of brown snakes across the landscape. It isn't the grand crenellated stone fortress you might imagine from later dynasties. Here, on the edge of the Ordos Desert, the Great Wall is a more humble, yet no less imposing structure. It's a colossal rampart of rammed earth, gravel, and layers of tamarisk branches, built layer by painstaking layer. It's a testament to the sheer will of the emperor, a declaration in dirt and sweat that this is where the civilized world ends. Your journey will begin in its shadow, a shadow that feels both protective and oppressive. You are leaving the relative safety of its watchtowers and patrols, venturing into the wilder lands beyond. The thought sends a familiar cold knot tightening in your stomach, a feeling you push down with the last of your tasteless porridge. It's just another day. It's just another ride. You wipe the last of the millet from your lips with the back of your hand and head towards the administrative hut, a squat building distinguished only by the extra guard standing at its door. The air is getting brighter, the deep indigo of pre-dawn softening to a bruised purple. The sounds of the garrison are growing louder, more purposeful. Men are shouting orders, leather creaks, and the rhythmic clang of a blacksmith's hammer begins its daily song. You are just one small cog, but in a few moments you will be given your task, the one that separates you from the spearmen drilling in the yard and the sentries on the wall. The dispatcher's office is surprisingly warm. A small charcoal brazier glows in the corner, and you feel a flash of resentment for the clerk who gets to spend his day in here, sheltered from the wind that's already starting to pick up. He's a man whose battles are fought with ink and brush, his face pale and perpetually smudged. He doesn't greet you. He simply looks up from his records, his eyes scanning your face as if to judge your fitness for the journey ahead. He seems satisfied, or at least resigned. He turns and retrieves an object from a wooden chest. This is it. The reason for your existence today. It's not a scroll of silk or a sheet of the new rare material they call paper. It's a bundle of bamboo slips, each about the width of your thumb and as long as your forearm. These thin, vertical slices of bamboo, smoothed and dried, are the backbone of the imperial bureaucracy. Each slip is covered in precise black characters, painted on with a brush. There must be 24 of them, maybe more, held together by 2 strands of sturdy silk cord that pass through tiny holes drilled in each slip. When rolled up, it forms a compact, dense cylinder. The dispatcher holds it out to you. "For the governor in Wu Wei," he says, his voice flat and devoid of emotion. "Urgent." You take the dispatch. It has a surprising weight, a solid, tangible feel. This is no mere letter. It's a piece of the government itself. You run a thumb over the cords. They are knotted in a specific, complicated way, but the true security lies in the lump of hardened, reddish-brown clay pressed over the knot. This is the Feng Ni, the clay seal. It's about the size of a large coin, and pressed deep into it is the intricate stamp of the regional commandery, a stylized tiger, its mouth open in a silent roar. This tiny sculpture in dried mud is everything. It proves the dispatch is authentic and untampered with. To read the message within, this seal must be broken, an act reserved for the recipient alone. Breaking it without authorization is a crime so severe you don't even like to think about the punishments. It's the Han Dynasty's version of a tamper-proof seal, far more effective than a flimsy paper envelope, and definitely not something you can just steam open and reseal. You examine the outer slip, which serves as the address label. The characters for Wu Wei Commandery are clear and bold. Historians still debate the literacy levels of men in your position. Can you read every character on this dispatch? Probably not, but you can read enough. You recognize the key place names, the symbols for urgent and official correspondence. You are not a scholar, but you are a professional. Your job is not to understand the message, but to be the message, to carry its intent across the vast empty spaces of the empire. What secrets do these bamboo slips hold? Reports on Xiongnu troop movements? A desperate plea for grain and reinforcements? Or maybe just a high-level official complaining about the quality of the local wine? You'll never know. Your ignorance is a form of security. The dispatcher makes a final note on his own set of bamboo records. Your name, the time of departure, the dispatch's identification number. It's all part of the vast, intricate system designed by the central government to control its sprawling territories. A system of roads, riders, horses, and stations all powered by records like these. It's a logistical marvel, and you are its most vulnerable, most essential component. He gives you a final look. The first horse is ready. Do not spare it. There is no good luck or stay safe. Such sentiments are a waste of breath. The risks are known, and luck is a fickle companion. Duty is what matters. You give a short, sharp nod, turning the heavy bundle of bamboo over in your hands one last time. It feels impossibly fragile for something so important. You almost wish it came with some of that bubble wrap they'll invent in a couple of millennia. You secure the dispatch inside a leather satchel, which you then strap tightly across your chest. It rests against your heart, a constant weighty reminder of your purpose. The dispatcher has already turned back to his records, your departure already a closed entry in his log. For him, the task is done. For you, it has just begun. You step out of the administrative hut, back into the biting wind. The sun is now a visible sliver of gold on the horizon, casting long, distorted shadows across the garrison yard. The weight of the bamboo dispatch against your chest is a physical manifestation of the dispatcher's terse command. Urgent. You walk towards the stables, your boots crunching on the hard-packed earth. This is the final ritual, the series of checks and preparations that might just keep you alive. You can't control the weather, and you can't control bandits, but you can control your gear. Your life depends on this meticulous, ingrained routine. At the stables, a groom is holding the reins of your first mount. It's not a majestic, towering warhorse from a general's epic poem. It's a horse of the frontier, compact, shaggy, and built for endurance over elegance. It's likely a descendant of the hardy Mongolian breeds, with a thick neck, strong legs, and an expression of profound indifference. It watches you approach with one dark, intelligent eye. It's probably the only creature in this whole garrison happy to see you, if only because you represent a long run and a change of scenery. You start with the horse itself, running your hands down its legs, feeling for any heat or swelling that could indicate an injury. A lame horse in the middle of nowhere is a death sentence. You lift each hoof using a small iron pick to scrape out any packed dirt or stones that could cause a bruise. The horse shifts its weight patiently, accustomed to the process. You check its teeth and gums for any sign of sickness, and look into its eyes, ensuring they are clear and bright. The animal seems sound, its energy a coiled spring beneath its dusty hide. You give its neck a firm pat. You will be partners for the next few hours, a two-bodied creature with a single purpose. The dispatcher's words echo in your head. Do not spare it. You know this means you will ride this animal to its absolute limit, but you still owe it a chance to survive that ride. Next, the saddle. Historians still debate the exact design of the saddles you use, piecing together evidence from tomb figurines and lacquered paintings. What you know for certain is that it's a masterpiece of practicality and a torture device for the unprepared. The frame is wood, with a high pommel at the front and a cantle at the back to give you some stability. It's covered in leather, worn smooth in the seat from countless hours and miles. But it's missing one crucial invention. You look down at the leather flaps and there is nothing there to put your feet in. No stirrups. That simple loop of metal wouldn't become common for centuries yet. Every gallop, every jolt, every sudden turn must be absorbed and controlled by the strength of your own legs and core. The thought makes your thighs ache in sympathy. Whoever eventually invents the stirrup, you think, deserves to have a national holiday declared in their honor. You check every strap and buckle of the tack, pulling hard on the leather to test for any weakness or fraying. A broken cinch on a hard gallop would be catastrophic. You lift the saddle blanket to make sure no thorns or burrs are caught in the wool, which could rub the horse raw and turn it mad with pain. Everything seems secure. You swing the saddle onto the horse's back with a practiced motion, settling it into place just behind the withers, and pull the cinch tight, the horse letting out a soft grunt of protest. Finally, you check your own meager gear. Your weapon is a short, single-edged iron sword, the Dao. Its blade sharp enough for a desperate fight, but its primary purpose is to be a deterrent. You slide it from its scabbard, checking for any rust on the blade before seating it firmly again at your side. Attached to your belt is your water skin, made from a cured goat's bladder which you filled with water that already tastes vaguely of goat. Slung over your shoulder is a small cloth bag containing a handful of millet cakes. They are dense, dry, and about as flavorful as packed sand, but they won't spoil. In an emergency, you could probably use one to sharpen your sword. Your belt itself is held fast by a simple daigou, an iron hook clasping a ring. It's a small personal item, but it literally holds your professional life together. That's it. There is no pack animal, no extra supplies. You are stripped down to the bare essentials because weight is the enemy of speed. You are not a traveler. You are a projectile being fired from one point to another. With a final check of the dispatch in its leather satchel, you grab the horse's mane and the high pommel of the saddle. With a grunt of effort and a swing of your leg, you pull yourself onto the horse's back, settling into the familiar worn leather. You take the reins, the coarse strips of leather, a comfortable weight in your hands. You look one last time at the garrison, now fully awake and bustling under a pale morning sky. Then you turn the horse's head south, click your tongue, and squeeze with your legs, urging your mount into a steady trot that will soon become a ground-eating canter. The journey has begun. The garrison gates close behind you with a dull thud, a sound of finality. For the first few hundred paces, you ride alongside the Great Wall itself. Up close, its scale is even more humbling. It's not a beautiful structure, but a raw, brutal assertion of power, a man-made mountain range of packed earth. You can see the layers of dirt, reeds, and tamarisk branches that form its core, a kind of geological record of human toil. Sentries patrol its summit, their figures small and remote against the brightening sky. They watch you, a lone rider heading south, but their gaze is already sweeping past you, scanning the vast empty plains to the north. Historians still argue whether the wall was purely a military fortification, or if it also functioned as a kind of glorified customs checkpoint, a way to control trade and migration along the Silk Road. For you, its purpose is much simpler. It's the line between relative safety and absolute self-reliance. As long as it's near, you are under the Empire's watchful eye, but your path diverges. The track you follow veers away from the wall, pulling you deeper into the embrace of the Ordos Loop. You urge your horse from a trot into a canter. The animal is fresh and eager, its stride powerful and rhythmic. The motion is a familiar one, a steady rocking that you've learned to move with, not against. Without stirrups, your thighs are already burning as they grip the horse's sides, your body a living clamp holding you to the saddle. Every beat of the horse as hooves on the hard-packed trail is a percussive note in the song of your journey, a sound that will be your constant companion for hours. The creak of the leather saddle, the jingle of your sword's hilt, the soft puffing of the horse's breath, these are the only sounds in a world of overwhelming silence. The landscape that opens up before you is brutally stark. There are no lush forests or gentle rolling hills here. This is a high, semi-arid plateau, scoured by wind and baked by the sun. The earth is a palette of browns and yellows, dotted with tough, scrubby bushes and tenacious grasses that cling to life in the poor soil. The road ahead is not paved, not even cobbled. It's just a wide, well-worn track, a pale ribbon winding its way through the desolation, pounded flat by centuries of hooves, cartwheels, and marching feet. This is the Imperial Highway, a critical artery of communication, and it has all the charm of a dried-up riverbed. Not a single roadside inn or tea house in sight. The service on this route, you think wryly, could use some improvement. You glance back over your shoulder. The Great Wall is already smaller, a long brown seam stitching the earth to the sky. The watchtowers are just small teeth on the horizon. The garrison itself has been swallowed by the landscape. The feeling of isolation begins to creep in, a cold companion to the morning chill. Out here, you are utterly alone. Every rock formation, every dip in the terrain could conceal a threat. The Ordos region has for generations been a contested land, a bloody stage for the endless brutal dance between the Han Empire and the nomadic Xiongnu tribes. You scan the horizon constantly, your eyes peeled for the telltale plume of dust that might signal a raiding party. Your hand rests on the pommel of your dhow, not because you think you could win a fight against a dozen hardened warriors, but because the act of touching it is a small comfort. A fine, gritty dust kicks up from your horse's hooves, coating your clothes, your face, your eyelashes. You can taste it on your tongue, dry and mineral. Before the day is out, you'll feel like you've personally eaten half the desert. You pull a cloth over your mouth and nose, a small and mostly futile gesture. The sun continues its climb, burning away the morning haze and starting to beat down with an intensity that promises a hot day ahead. The initial chill has vanished, replaced by a growing warmth that makes you regret your padded tunic. As your horse settles into its relentless pace, your mind drifts. You think of the legendary celestial steeds, the Tianma from the Fergana Valley far to the west. Horses that were said to be sired by dragons, so powerful and swift they sweated blood. Generals and emperors rode those magnificent beasts. You, on the other hand, are riding a durable, reliable but decidedly terrestrial pony. Still, it moves with a strength and stamina that you have to respect. It is a creature perfectly adapted to this harsh world, just as you have been forced to adapt. For now, the rhythm of the ride is all that matters. Hoofbeat, creak, breath. Hoofbeat, creak, breath. The shadow of the Great Wall is gone now, and you are just a single moving speck in an immense and unforgiving land. Hours pass. The sun, your only real clock, has crawled a quarter of the way across the vast blue canvas of the sky. The world has settled into a hypnotic, jarring rhythm. Your body, initially protesting the abuse, has now lapsed into a state of numb endurance. The burning in your thighs is a constant dull fire. Your lower back screams with every jarring step. You shift your weight in the saddle, a small futile attempt to find a new position, a moment of relief that never comes. The landscape has not changed. It is still the same endless expanse of dusty plains and low rolling hills, a panorama of beige and ochre that seems designed to lull the eye into a state of weary boredom. This is the real challenge of the job, you realize. Not just the danger, but the soul-crushing monotony. Your mind feels as barren as the terrain. You've counted the paces of your horse. You've tried to name the few constellations you know will appear in the night sky. You've mentally cataloged every single bad meal you've ever eaten, a list on which this morning's millet porridge now holds a place of honor. Your focus narrows to the most basic sensations, the dry heat on your skin, the persistent taste of dust in your mouth, the growing thirst that your water skin only partially quenches. Your horse is starting to labor. It's breathing heavier, its coat slick with sweat despite the dry air. The initial eagerness is gone, replaced by the dogged, determined plod of an animal reaching its limit. You are pushing it hard, just as the dispatcher commanded, and you can feel its life force being spent with every li you cover. And then you see it. At first, it's just a dark smudge on the horizon, a slight irregularity in the otherwise clean line where earth meets sky. You blink, your dust-caked eyes struggling to focus. Is it a trick of the heat? A mirage shimmering over the plain? You keep riding, your gaze locked on the spot. Slowly, painstakingly, the smudge resolves itself into something solid. A structure. A fence. A hint of smoke rising in a thin, lazy curl. It's the Ting, the first postal station. A wave of profound relief washes over you, so potent it almost makes you dizzy. It's not a grand fortress or a bustling town. It's a tiny outpost of humanity in the middle of an ocean of dirt. But right now it looks as beautiful to you as the gates of the imperial palace. This is the first link in the long chain you will follow south. A tangible piece of the great postal machine that connects the empire. Seeing it means you are on the right path. It means you get a fresh horse. And most importantly, it means you can get off this one. Your current mount seems to share your sentiment, its ears pricking forward and its pace quickening ever so slightly, sensing the promise of rest and water. It's probably already composing a strongly worded letter of resignation to the stable master. As you draw closer, the station's humble reality becomes clear. Historians still debate the exact architectural uniformity of these outposts, but this one is a testament to pure, unadorned function. A low, square wall of woven willow branches and tamarisk, looking a bit like a giant, poorly made basket, encloses a small compound. Inside stands a single windowless building made of the same rammed earth as the Great Wall, its roof a simple thatch of reeds. A small corral, also fenced with willow, holds a handful of horses who watch your approach with mild curiosity. This is a Ting, one of thousands that dot the empire, placed at regular intervals along major routes. They are the essential nodes of the system, allowing for the rapid exchange of horses that makes your job possible. You ride up to the open gateway in the willow fence and swing your leg over the saddle. The moment your feet touch the ground, your knees nearly buckle. Your legs, which have been locked in a rigid curve for hours, feel like jelly, protesting the sudden demand to bear your weight. You stumble for a step, grabbing the saddle to steady yourself, the feeling of solid, unmoving earth beneath your boots a strange and wonderful sensation. The station master, the Tingjang, emerges from the earthen hut. He is a weathered, middle-aged man with a deeply lined face and arms as tough as old leather. His expression is neither friendly nor unfriendly. It's the practiced neutrality of a man who sees dozens of riders like you pass through, all of them just transient pieces of the imperial mail. For him, you are not a person. You are a schedule to be maintained. It's a strange thought that Liu Bang, the peasant rebel who founded this entire mighty Han Dynasty, was once a Tingjang just like this man. A local postmaster, a keeper of horses, a small-town constable. It is one of those historical facts that makes you realize the empire is built not just by grand generals, but by countless anonymous men in dusty outposts exactly like this one. The station master gives you a curt nod. There's no welcome, no offer of water, no inquiry about your journey. His eyes are fixed on the sweat-darkened coat of your horse, his expression that of a master craftsman assessing a worn-out tool. You know the protocol. This is a place of business, and the currency is time. You reach into your tunic and pull out a small, polished wooden tablet. A jai. It's your official credential, etched with characters and symbols that identify you as a rider for the Imperial Postal Service, granting you the authority to requisition what you need. It's the key that unlocks the resources of the Empire's vast network. You hand it to him. He takes it without a word, his calloused thumb rubbing over the engraved surface to verify its authenticity. He glances from the tablet to the sealed leather satchel on your chest, noting the urgency implied by its presence. Satisfied, he turns and barks an order to a young boy, barely a teenager, who emerges from the shadows of the stable. The station master's job isn't just to provide horses, it's to police his small territory, settle local disputes, and act as the lowest rung of the imperial legal ladder. He has the weary, impatient air of a man with too many responsibilities, and you are just one more task to be dealt with swiftly. His welcoming demeanor is on par with that of a particularly grumpy tax collector. While the boy disappears into the corral, you begin the laborious process of unsaddling your weary horse. Your muscles protest, stiff and sore from the ride, but you work with an efficiency born of endless repetition. You unbuckle the cinch, the leather groaning in protest. You lift the heavy wooden saddle, along with its blanket, off the horse's back. A cloud of steam rises from the animal's damp hide, carrying the salty animal scent of its effort into the dry air. You give the horse a final sympathetic pat on the neck. Its workday is over. It will be watered, fed, and rested before being ridden hard by another courier, perhaps heading north tomorrow. It is a living, breathing, expendable part of the system, just like you. The station master, meanwhile, has taken a thin slip of wood and a sharp stylus. He meticulously scratches a series of characters into the surface, recording your arrival. This is the quiet, bureaucratic heart of the operation. Modern excavations of Han frontier posts will one day uncover thousands of these wooden slips, detailing everything from the exact minute a courier departed to the amount of grain allotted to a specific horse. You are a data point. Your arrival time, the state of your mount, the destination of your dispatch, it's all being entered into the official record. There's no loyalty program, no punch card where the 10th horse swap gets you a free bowl of kanji. There is only the record, a silent testament to your passage. The boy returns leading a fresh horse. This one is a bay with a leaner frame and a restless energy. Its eyes are wide and alert, and it paws at the ground impatiently. It looks faster than your last ride, and probably more stubborn. You just hope its personality is an improvement over the last horse you rode near the capital, who seemed to have a personal vendetta against anything that rustled in the bushes. You and the boy perform a quick, practiced exchange. He takes the reins of your tired mount and leads it away towards a water trough, while you approach the new one, speaking to it in a low, calm voice. You run your hands over the new horse, a quick check for any obvious issues. Then you swing the heavy saddle onto its back. The horse flinches but stands its ground as you tighten the cinch. You reattach your small bag of rations and your water skin. The entire process has taken less time than it takes for a pot of tea to brew. This is the genius of the system. It's built on ruthless efficiency. There is no wasted motion, no idle chatter. Speed is everything. Historians still debate the precise logistics of keeping these tiny remote stations supplied with enough fodder and grain for a stable of constantly rotating horses. But looking at the neat stacks of dried hay in the corner, you know there's a second slower network of ox carts and supply wagons that makes your rapid journey possible. It's an invisible, plodding system that enables the lightning-fast one. With your gear secured, you hand the station master his wooden slipback. He tucks it away and gives you a single, sharp nod. That's your dismissal. The transaction is complete. You grab the reins, pull yourself up into the saddle with a grunt, and settle in. This horse feels different, its energy a live wire beneath you. Without a backward glance at the station master or the humble willow fence, you steer your new partner back towards the dusty track and urge it forward, leaving the tiny island of refuge behind. Once again, a solitary rider in the vast, silent expanse. The fresh horse is a completely different animal. Where your last mount was a study in weary endurance, this one is a bundle of coiled, nervous energy. It leaps into a gallop with an explosive power that almost unseats you, its hooves thundering against the packed earth. This one, you think as you grip with your thighs and lean into the wind, only has two speeds, dangerously fast and even faster. For a while you let it run. The sheer velocity, a thrilling change from the plodding pace of the last hour. The desolate landscape streams by in a blur of brown and yellow. It feels good to be covering ground so quickly, to feel the wind whip tears from your eyes. But you can't maintain this pace, it's reckless. A single prairie dog burrow, a patch of loose shale, a sudden unseen ditch. Any of these could spell disaster at this speed. The Imperial Highway Department, you reflect wryly, seems to be a bit behind on its maintenance schedule. You gradually rein the horse in, pulling it back to a sustainable but swift canter. The animal protests with a toss of its head but obeys. Its energy is now your responsibility to manage. Burn it out too soon, and you'll be left crawling to the next station. With the speed moderated, your senses return to their state of high alert. The relief of the postal station is a fading memory, and the vast empty spaces are once again filled with potential menace. Your focus is split now, between the ground immediately ahead of your horse and the distant hazy horizon. The terrain itself is a constant adversary. You guide the horse around a stretch of ground littered with sharp, broken rock that could slice a hoof open. You slow to a walk to navigate a steep, eroded gully, the horse picking its way down and up the other side with careful, deliberate steps. These are the mundane dangers, the ones that can be overcome with caution and good horsemanship. It's the other dangers that make the hairs on your arms stand up. Your hand finds its way back to the hilt of your sword, a familiar and vaguely comforting weight. Your eyes are constantly scanning, searching for anything out of place. A flicker of movement in the scrub brush, a column of dust that doesn't match the direction of the wind, a glint of sunlight off something that isn't rock. Most of the time, it's nothing. A trick of the light, a herd of wild gazelles, a heat shimmer that your anxious mind briefly shapes into a column of riders. You squint at one such shimmer now, hoping it might be the world's first mobile noodle stand, but knowing it's more likely to be impending doom. The primary threat out here is the Xiongnu. You've heard the stories in the barracks, tales from veterans with scarred faces and haunted eyes. They speak of the uncanny skill of the nomadic horsemen, how they can ride without reins, firing arrow after arrow from their powerful composite bows with terrifying accuracy. They seem to grow out of the very landscape, their attacks as swift and devastating as a prairie fire. Historians of the future will debate whether the Xiongnu raids were motivated by a simple desire for plunder or were a complex political response to Han expansion. For you, the distinction is meaningless. A warrior charging at you on a pony, bow drawn, isn't interested in a nuanced geopolitical discussion. You pass a place where the earth is scarred and littered with old, broken arrow shafts and the bleached bones of horses. A skirmish happened here, months or maybe years ago. You imagine the chaos, the shouting, the clash of iron, the screams of men and animals. You think of the nasty little tricks of frontier warfare, like the iron caltrops the Han army uses, 4 pointed spikes scattered on the ground to cripple the enemy's horses. A field like this would have been sown with them. It's a grim reminder that you are riding through a war zone, even if the enemy is currently invisible. A flock of birds suddenly bursts from a low hill to your right, scattering into the sky with frantic cries. Your body tenses instantly. Your heart hammers against your ribs. Your horse feels it too, its ears swiveling, its muscles bunching beneath you. Birds don't startle for no reason. You pull the horse to a halt, every one of your senses straining, trying to hear past the whisper of the wind. You wait motionless for what feels like an eternity. Nothing, no sound, no movement. After a long, tense moment, you see a lone wolf trot over the crest of the hill, the likely cause of the disturbance. You let out a breath you didn't realize you were holding. It was nothing this time, but the incident leaves you shaken, a fresh layer of adrenaline sharpening your awareness. In this land, your life is measured in moments of vigilance, one anxious, watchful second at a time. You urge your horse back into a canter, the adrenaline from the false alarm slowly ebbing away, leaving a familiar residue of weariness. The wolf was a potent reminder of a fundamental truth of this road. The land speaks, and if you want to stay alive, you had better learn its language. When you first started this job, the landscape was just a terrifying, monotonous void. Now, after countless journeys, it has become a text, filled with subtle signs and hidden meanings. You're no scholar, but you have learned to read this endless, dusty page. It's a skill learned through fear and repetition. You've learned that the sudden, panicked flight of birds, like the ones you just saw, almost always means a ground predator. But a slower, more deliberate ascent of a large flock can signal the approach of a group of riders from miles away, long before you can see their dust. You've learned to watch the small herds of wild donkeys or gazelles that graze on the sparse vegetation. If their heads are down, the world is calm. If their heads are up, ears swiveling in unison, something is wrong. They can hear and smell danger long before a clumsy human can. You're pretty sure the prairie dogs, who pop in and out of their holes and watch you pass with beady eyes, have an elaborate gossip network that tracks your every move. Their sharp, chirping barks are an alarm system for the entire plain. You've also become a walking, breathing, slightly saddle-sore weather station. You can feel a change in the wind's direction and know it carries the scent of distant rain, a damp, earthy smell that's unmistakable in the otherwise parched air. You can look at the shape and color of the clouds building on the western horizon and make a good guess whether they'll bring a brief, violent thunderstorm or a long, soaking drizzle. Knowing the difference is critical. A sudden downpour can turn a dry gully into a raging flash flood, and a lightning storm on the open plain, with you as the tallest object for miles around, is a terrifying prospect. Your knowledge is a practical, hard-won science, a world away from the court astrologers and their official pronouncements. The ground beneath you is just as revealing. You look at the tracks on the road, your eyes automatically deciphering their story. The deep, parallel ruts of a heavy ox cart, its tracks wide and ponderous, tell you a merchant caravan passed this way. You can see from the freshness of the churned dust that they are probably only a few hours ahead. You see the tracks of other horses too. A group of 3, you surmise, moving at a fast clip. Their unshod hooves leave a different print from a farm horse. Are they fellow couriers or something else? You can't know for sure, but you file the information away. Every clue is a piece of a puzzle you are constantly trying to solve. You've heard whispers of incredible inventions back in the capital, like the legendary south-pointing chariot, a miraculous contraption of gears that can keep a figurine pointing south no matter which way the chariot turns. It's the kind of high technology reserved for generals on military campaigns. Your own navigation tools are far simpler and far older. During the day, it's the sun, its position, the length and direction of your shadow. At night, it's the stars. Historians still argue about the extent to which common people used complex celestial navigation for overland journeys, but you know the basics. You know how to find the fixed point of the North Star, the pivot around which the entire sky seems to turn. It's a reliable, unwavering friend in the vast darkness, a single point of certainty in a world of threats. This deep reading of the world has changed you. It has forced a kind of quiet mindfulness, an intense awareness of the present moment. Your mind can't afford to wander to thoughts of home or to worry about the contents of the dispatch you carry. Your entire consciousness has to be focused outward, on the shimmer of the air, the cry of a hawk, the twitch of your horse's ear. You are no longer just a man riding through a landscape. You are a part of it, your senses woven into the fabric of the plains, your survival dependent on your ability to interpret its faintest whispers. The land is no longer an enemy. It is a stern, unforgiving teacher, and you have finally started to understand the lesson. The sun has reached its zenith, a white-hot coin hanging directly overhead in a bleached blue sky. It beats down on you without mercy, and the heat radiates back up from the baked earth. There are no shadows to offer refuge. Your stomach, which has been quiet for hours, is now a hollow ache, an insistent reminder that your body, like your horse, is a machine that requires fuel. It's time for a meal, or at least the sorry excuse for one that you carry. You don't stop in a place of comfort or beauty. You stop in a place of tactical advantage. You guide your horse off the main track into a shallow depression, a small basin sheltered by a cluster of large, weathered rocks. It's not much, but it keeps you out of direct sight from the road and breaks the relentless wind. More importantly, it gives you a vantage point. From here, you can see the track in both directions without being easily seen yourself. There is no rest for the vigilant. You swing down from the saddle, your body screaming in protest at the renewed acquaintance with solid ground. You loosen the horse's cinch to let it breathe easier, and let its reins trail on the ground. The well-trained postal horse knows this means it is to stay put. It immediately lowers its head and begins to snuffle at the sparse, tough grasses growing between the rocks, its own quick and joyless meal. You watch it for a moment, then turn to your own provisions. Your lunch is not packed in a neat box. It's in the same cloth bag you've been carrying all morning. You pull out a single palm-sized disc of dried millet cake. It's dense, hard, and a uniform shade of dusty yellow. This is the fuel of the Han army, the staple grain of the northern frontier. Millet is a miracle crop, able to grow in poor soil with little water, and once harvested and ground into flour, it can be baked into these iron-hard cakes that last for weeks. Historians still debate the specific composition of these rations, whether they sometimes included ground beans or a pinch of salt. But the one you reholding seems to have missed out on any such luxuries. You take a bite. The cake is so hard you have to gnaw at it, your teeth scraping against the unyielding surface. It tastes of very little. It has the faint, nutty flavor of the grain itself. But this is overwhelmed by the taste of stale flour, and of course the ever-present dust that has worked its way into everything you own. You chew slowly, methodically, your jaw working hard to break the cake down into something you can swallow. You chew thoughtfully, concluding that its primary flavor is brown with a subtle aftertaste of despair. To wash it down, you unstopper your water skin. The water inside is now warm from the sun, and it carries the distinct, tangy flavor of the cured goat bladder it's stored in. It's a certain rustic bouquet you've never managed to acquire a taste for. You take a long swallow, the tepid water doing little to refresh you, but it's wet, and it helps force the dry crumbs of the millet cake down your throat. You look out at the empty landscape stretching before you, the heat creating shimmering distortions in the air. The ambiance, you think, is second to none. A truly exclusive, zero-star dining experience. This simple, unappetizing meal is also a subtle cultural marker. You eat grain and drink water. Your enemies, the Xiongnu, would be dining differently. Their saddlebags would hold dried meat and perhaps a hard, sour cheese made from mare's milk. To the Han, the consumption of dairy products is a barbarian custom. Your food is the food of a settled agricultural people. Even here, hundreds of alai from the nearest proper farm. It is a reminder of the deep cultural chasm that separates your world from the world of the nomadic horsemen to the north. You finish your cake and take one last swallow of goat-flavored water. The entire break has lasted no more than the time it takes for an incense stick to burn down. It wasn't a rest, it was a pit stop. There's no lingering, no savoring the moment. Time is a resource you are burning through just as surely as you are burning through the energy this miserable meal provides. You check the sun's position again, tighten your horse's cinch, and pull yourself back into the oppressive heat of the saddle. The brief pause is over. The road awaits. The afternoon bleeds away, one weary hoofbeat at a time. The sun, your merciless overseer for most of the day, begins its slow descent toward the western horizon. The quality of the light changes, the harsh white glare softening into a warm golden honey that floods the plains. The world is briefly, breathtakingly beautiful. The sun finally decides to clock out for the day, putting on a spectacular display of reds and purples that streaks across the sky. It's a lovely show, but it does little to help you see the large badger hole your horse deftly avoids. As the last sliver of sun disappears, a profound and sudden chill descends. The temperature plummets, and the heat ached from the earth all day begins to radiate back into the rapidly darkening sky. You pull your wool tunic tighter, the fabric suddenly feeling inadequate. The world transforms. What was a landscape defined by sight is now a realm of sound and shadow. The rhythmic clip-clop of your horse's hooves seems louder now, echoing in the vast stillness. The creak of your saddle is a familiar old friend speaking in the dark. Every rustle of the wind in the dry grasses, every distant, unidentifiable animal cry, is magnified. Night travel is wonderfully peaceful, if you ignore the fact that every shadow could be a bandit and every strange noise is absolutely 100% a vengeful spirit. Your guide, the sun, has abandoned you. Now you must turn to an older, more subtle map. You pull your horse to a stop and crane your neck, looking up at the sky. Away from the smoke and haze of any city, away from even the torchlight of a garrison, the heavens are a breathtaking spectacle. The sheer number of stars is overwhelming, a glittering spill of diamond dust on black velvet, a broad, milky band of light, the silver river as the poets call it, stretches from one end of the sky to the other. It is a sight of such profound and silent majesty that it makes your own urgent mission feel impossibly small. But you are not looking for beauty, you are looking for a single reliable friend. Your eyes scan the familiar patterns, the celestial landmarks you know as well as the calluses on your own hands. You find the 7 bright stars that form the shape of a ladle or a dipper. Beidou, the northern dipper. This is the most important signpost in the sky. From there you follow the line of its outer edge, extending it outward until your gaze lands on a single, steady star, one that doesn't seem quite as bright as the others, but has a unique, unwavering quality. This is your guide, the pole star, the pivot of the heavens, the celestial anchor around which all other stars dutifully turn. Historians in the future may debate precisely how much of the court astronomers' sophisticated knowledge, their charts of lunar mansions and planetary movements, trickled down to a common rider like you. What you know isn't the complex science of the capital's observatories. It's a practical oral tradition passed from veteran riders to rookies. Find the dipper, find the star that doesn't move. Keep it over your right shoulder and you will be heading south. It's a simple, foolproof algorithm that has guided travelers across this land since time immemorial. You and the North Star have a solid working relationship. It stays put, you follow its general direction, and there are no quarterly performance reviews. With your bearings confirmed, you click your tongue and get your horse moving again, this time at a slower, more cautious pace. You must trust the animal more at night, relying on its superior vision and hearing to avoid the unseen hazards of the trail. The world is now a symphony of blacks and grays, your eyes slowly adjusting to the faint silvery light of the stars. You feel a strange sense of continuity, of being a single link in an endless chain. Countless riders before you have stared up at this same dipper, this same unchanging star, feeling this same mixture of awe and loneliness. The knowledge is a quiet comfort. The stars are a clock, a calendar, and a compass all in one. A divine bureaucracy far older and more reliable than the bamboo slip administration you serve. Your own small life, your urgent message, is just one more brief story told under their ancient, silent gaze. You ride on through the deep, silent hours of the night, the pole star your only constant companion. The initial awe of the cosmos has faded, replaced by a profound, bone-deep exhaustion. Your body is a single, continuous ache. Your mind, worn down by hours of vigilance and the sheer physical toll of the ride, feels thick and slow. The energetic horse you acquired at the last station has settled into a dogged, weary trot, its own reserves of strength nearly depleted. You are running on fumes, a ghost moving through a landscape of shadows. Just as you begin to feel you could simply fall out of the saddle and let the night swallow you, you see it. a tiny, flickering point of light low on the horizon to the south. It's so small you think it might be a firefly or a star that has fallen from the heavens. But it doesn't move. It remains fixed, a tiny pinprick of orange in the overwhelming black. It's a lantern, and a lantern in the middle of this desolation can only mean one thing. The Yizhan, the major post house. A fresh surge of adrenaline, or maybe just sheer relief, courses through you. After hours of absolute darkness, that single point of light looks as bright and welcoming as a city celebrating a festival in your honor. It's your destination for the night, a promise of warmth, food, and, most gloriously, a few hours of horizontal, motionless rest. You urge your tired horse forward, its steps seeming to quicken as it too senses the end of its labor. The journey to the light takes longer than you expect. It's a lesson you've learned before. Distances at night are deceptive, but slowly, the single point of light multiplies into several, and the dark mass around them solidifies into the high, rammed earth walls of a compound far larger and more imposing than the simple willow fence of the Ting. This is in Yizhan, a proper station built for overnight stays. It's a vital organ in the empire's circulatory system, a place where the flow of information can pause for a breath before continuing its relentless pace. A guard, his shape a dark silhouette holding a spear, challenges you from the gatehouse as you approach. His voice is sharp with suspicion. You croak out your identity, imperial courier, and hold up your wooden jai, your passport to the system. Another man brings a lantern closer, its light dancing across your dust-caked face and the weary lines of your horse. He inspects your credentials carefully before nodding to the guard. The heavy wooden gates groan open just wide enough for you and your horse to pass through. The courtyard within is a haven of relative civilization. Lanterns hang from wooden posts, casting a warm, flickering glow on a scene of organized activity. Grooms rush to take your horse, their movements efficient and practiced. The air smells of hay, animals, wood smoke, and, impossibly, wonderfully, hot food. From a long building on one side of the courtyard, you can hear the low murmur of voices and the clatter of bowls. It's the most beautiful music you've ever heard. You present your credentials again to a harried-looking official inside the main hall, who makes a note on a wooden slip, his movements illuminated by a flickering oil lamp. You hear a soft, rhythmic dripping and then a hollow clack from a corner of the room. It's a clepsydra, a water clock, measuring out the watches of the night. It's a piece of official technology that marks this place as an important, well-regulated hub. The official gestures you toward the common room. You push through a thick curtain and are hit by a wave of warmth and noise. The room is long and smoky, with a handful of men sitting on benches at low tables, hunched over bowls of steaming food. They are men like you, other couriers, a few merchants with priority travel permits, maybe a low-ranking military officer. Their faces are all etched with the same weary exhaustion as your own. Historians still debate the level of comfort and security at these government run-ins, but tonight, this smoky, crowded room feels like the height of luxury. A boy brings you a bowl of hot noodle soup with bits of stewed vegetables and, miraculously, a few slivers of salted pork. Your expectations were low. As long as it wasn't a millet cake and didn't actively fight back, you'd be happy. This is a feast. You sit on a bench and devour the meal, the hot, salty broth a balm to your soul. The noodles are soft, the vegetables savory. You eat without tasting at first, driven by pure animal hunger. Only as the bowl nears empty do you slow down, savoring the simple, profound pleasure of a warm meal. When you are finished, the boy shows you to the sleeping quarters. It's a long, dark room lined with low wooden platforms covered in straw pallets, most of them already occupied by snoring, blanket-wrapped forms. There are no private suites with mints on the pillows here. You find an empty pallet, unroll your own thin blanket and collapse onto it, not even bothering to take off your boots. The hard platform feels as soft as goose down. The symphony of snores is a lullaby. Your mission, the dispatch pressed against your chest, is forgotten for a few precious hours. You are not a courier anymore. You are just a tired man, safe within the walls, finally at rest. Sleep is not a gentle, restorative ocean. It's a shallow, muddy ditch you fall into for a few hours. You are jolted awake not by a sound, but by the deep, pre-dawn cold and the protest of every muscle in your body. For a moment, you don't know where you are. The ceiling is too close, the air thick with the smell of unwashed bodies and stale smoke, and the soundtrack is a chorus of unfamiliar snores and wheezes. Then it comes back to you. The Yijan, the post house. You sit up, your spine cracking in protest. You feel as if you've been thoroughly beaten with a sack of horseshoes, which, given your profession, is a fairly accurate description of a typical day. You don't have the luxury of a slow morning. Time is always the enemy. You pull on your still damp boots and stumble out of the sleeping barracks into the biting chill of the courtyard. The eastern sky is just beginning to soften from black to a deep, bruised purple. A few lanterns still burn, but their light is feeble against the encroaching dawn. Other figures are already moving in the shadows. Grooms feeding the horses, a cook tending to a steaming pot over a fire, and other travelers preparing for the day's journey. The air is still, and voices carry in low, conspiratorial murmurs. You are by nature an observer, your job one of silent transit. You move to the water trough to splash your face, the icy water a brutal but effective wake-up call, and you listen. It is in these transient, anonymous spaces that the true pulse of the empire can be felt, far from the sanitized reports written on bamboo slips like the one you carry. Historians still debate the actual speed and accuracy of rumor versus official news, but you know that the whispers of merchants and soldiers often paint a more vivid, if less reliable, picture of the world. Near the stables, two soldiers, their armor dull in the dim light, speak in low tones as they check their saddle girths. "Saw it myself," one of them says. "They came over the ridge at dawn, at least 50 of them. The Zhang garrison was completely overrun. They didn't even have time to light the signal fire. Your blood runs cold. The Zhang garrison is 2 days' ride north of where you started. The Xiongnu are active and they are close. The news makes the weight of the dispatch on your chest feel heavier, its contents suddenly seeming more critical. You move towards the cook fire, hoping for a warm cup of water or perhaps a leftover piece of flatbread. Here a merchant, his silk robes looking shabby and travel-stained, is complaining to anyone who will listen. "The harvest in the east is a disaster," he grumbles, warming his hands over the flames. "Too much rain, then a plague of locusts. The granaries are half empty, and the governor has forbidden any private grain sales. How is a man to make a living?" He talks about taxes, bandits, and corrupt inspectors. You listen to his timeless complaints and realize he's just a few centuries away from inventing the PowerPoint presentation to fully illustrate his grievances. His worries are not of war, but of commerce and survival, a reminder that the empire's health depends as much on the price of millet as it does on the strength of its armies. A few feet away, two older men who look like they might be clerks or secretaries to some traveling official are having a more dangerous conversation. Their heads are close together, their voices barely audible. You catch fragments. The Empress's brother, given command of the Northern Army, and the eunuchs in the palace will never stand for it. You know enough to understand the poison in those words. The endless, shadowy power struggle in the capital between the families of the empresses and the eunuchs who control access to the emperor. It sounds like a thrilling stage play, except the actors are the most powerful people in the world, and the final act often involves beheadings and clan exterminations. One of the men then lowers his voice even further, and you hear him mention an omen. "And they say a goat was born in Hedong with 2 heads, and its face looked like a man's." The heavens are showing their displeasure. You turn away, the snippets of conversation swirling in your mind. Border raids, a poor harvest, political instability, and bad omens. It's a tapestry of anxiety, a snapshot of an empire groaning under the strain of its own vastness. The bamboo slips you carry are one clean, official thread in this messy, tangled web of human affairs. Your job is to deliver your single thread. But for the first time on this journey, you have a chilling sense of the larger pattern, and it does not look peaceful. A groom brings your new horse saddled and ready. It's time to ride back into the solitude, carrying the whispers of a troubled world with you. The gates of the Yijan close behind you, and once again you are alone with the rising sun and the endless road. The morning is crisp and clean, the air washed by the night's coolness. The whispers from the courtyard, of border raids and two-headed goats, fade into the rhythmic drumming of your horse-ass hooves, but they leave a thoughtful residue in your mind. Before, your mission was a simple physical task: move a package from point A to point B. Now the package feels different. It feels connected to that whole messy, anxious world of politics, harvests, and wars. You are not just carrying a bundle of bamboo, you are carrying a piece of the Empire's nervous system. You settle into the long, steady pace of the day's first ride, and your thoughts turn to the invisible world your dispatch belongs to. You are the tangible part of the system, the part of flesh and blood and sweat. But you are just the messenger. You're a biological arrow, shot from one part of a vast, unseen machine to another. You start to think about the journey of this message, not through the physical landscape, but through the bureaucratic one. It began, you imagine, in a quiet, lamp-lit room. A scribe, a man you will never meet, ground his ink on a stone slab, the scent of soot and binding glue filling the air. He dipped his fine-haired brush and, with steady practice strokes, painted the characters onto each bamboo slip. You picture him, pale from a life spent indoors, his greatest physical challenge a stiff back or an ink stain on his pristine sleeve. Does he have any concept of the journey his words are about to take? Does he ever think of the men who will ride through dust storms and freezing nights to deliver his elegant script? You doubt it. For him, the job was done when the last character was dry. Then, the dispatch would have gone to an official, a man of higher rank. He would have read it, his face impassive, and then rolled the slips into a bundle. He would have tied the silk cords himself, his hands soft and uncalloused, and pressed his personal seal, his authority, into the soft clay. This man is a node in the network, a gatekeeper of information. He decided this message was important enough to be designated urgent, a single word that translates into your aching muscles and your exhausted horses. His simple decision initiated a cascade of events, a flurry of hurried activity across hundreds of LI, all to serve his purpose. And along the way, there are others. The dispatcher at your garrison, the grim-faced Tingzhang at the Willow station, the harried clerk with the water clock at the Yizhan. Each one is a guardian of the process, a minor priest in the cult of the imperial record. They log your name, the time, the dispatch number, adding another layer of data to the great, ever-growing mountain of information that is the government. Their wooden slips are the memory of the empire, a meticulous, cross-referenced accounting of its own functions. Finally, at the end of your long road, this bundle of bamboo will be handed to another man you will never see. Perhaps a secretary to the governor of Wuwei. This man will carefully break the clay seal, his movements precise, and unroll the slips. He will read the message, and then what? Perhaps he copies it onto a new set of slips for the archives. Perhaps he summarizes it for his superior. The information is absorbed back into the machine, where it will be debated, filed, acted upon, or just as likely, ignored. It's a system so vast and complicated, you're certain that no one person, not the chancellor in the capital nor the emperor on his dragon throne, truly understands how all its pieces fit together. Historians in another age will debate the degree of centralization in your Han government, whether it was a rigid pyramid with all power flowing from the top, or a more loosely connected web of regional authorities. From your vantage point in the saddle, it feels like both. The system is powerful enough to build the Great Wall and to send you riding for a week on a single command, but it's also a patchwork of personal ambitions and local concerns, as evidenced by the whispers in the courtyard. Your role in all this is brutally simple. You are the sinew that connects the bones of the bureaucracy. You don't need to understand the scholars, the officials, or the clerks. You just have to ride. But as the morning sun climbs higher, you feel a strange sense of being part of something immense, an invisible web of trust and authority, of ink and bamboo, that stretches from the frontier to the palace. The weight on your chest is no longer just a package. It's a responsibility to that entire unseen world. The morning ride is long and uneventful. After your bout of philosophical reflection on the nature of bureaucracy, your mind empties once more, lulled by the familiar rhythm of the journey. You swap your horse at another Spartan ting. The exchange is swift and impersonal as the first. The sun climbs, the heat builds, and the landscape remains stubbornly, defiantly the same. But then in the early afternoon, you notice a change. The flat plain begins to dip, the road sloping gently but steadily downward. The air grows heavier, more humid, and you can smell a new scent on the wind, something damp and loamy, the smell of a great deal of water. You crest a final rise and the world opens up before you. There it is, the Huanghe, the Yellow River. It's not just a river. It's a colossal, terrifying force of nature. It's immense, a wide, churning expanse of muddy, ochre-colored water that snakes its way across the land from horizon to horizon. They call it China's sorrow for its legendary, devastating floods. And looking at it now, you understand why. It seems less like water and more like a vast, angry torrent of liquid earth. The sheer power radiating from it is palpable, a low, guttural roar that you can feel in your chest even from this distance. All your personal urgency, all the imperial importance of your dispatch, feels utterly insignificant in the face of this timeless geological force. The road leads you down into the river valley, towards a small collection of huts and a crude wooden pier that serves as the ferry landing. There are no great bridges spanning this monster. Crossing is a far more intimate and dangerous affair. A flat-bottomed wooden barge is tethered to the pier, bobbing precariously in the current. It looks like it was constructed from leftover firewood, and you note a distinct and worrying lack of emergency exits or life vests. A man emerges from one of the huts as you approach. He is the ferryman, his skin the color of tanned leather, his face a road map of wrinkles carved by a lifetime of squinting into the sun and the river's glare. He moves with the slow, deliberate economy of an old man, but his arms are thick with muscle. He gives you a nod, his eyes taking in your courier's attire, and gestures with his chin towards the barge. There's no price to haggle. Your official credentials, which you show him, cover the fee. Historians will later debate whether these vital ferry crossings were state-run enterprises or licensed private businesses. But to you, all that matters is that this man is your only way across. Now comes the hard part. You dismount and try to lead your horse towards the ramp onto the ferry. The animal, which has faced down the emptiness of the plains and the threat of wolves without complaint, takes one look at the rickety moving platform and the churning water, and says, in no uncertain terms, absolutely not. It plants its feet, its eyes rolling, its ears flat against its head. It gives you a look that clearly communicates, "You expect me to get on that floating pile of sticks? I've seen more stable puddles." It takes all your skill and patience and a bit of help from the surprisingly strong ferryman to coax the terrified animal onto the barge. You have to blindfold it with a spare cloth and practically drag it, one trembling step at a time, up the ramp. Once on board, it stands with its legs splayed, muscles quivering, a picture of equine misery. You stand at its head, stroking its neck and speaking in what you hope is a soothing tone, trying to keep it calm. The ferryman unties the thick hemp rope, gives the pier a powerful shove with a long bamboo pole, and you are cast into the current. The roar of the river is immense now, the barge groaning and creaking as it's gripped by the powerful flow. The ferryman works a massive steering oar at the stern, his body straining, using the current's own force to angle the barge across the river. You see a small carved fish dangling from the oar's handle, a little charm for protection. Before setting out, he had taken a small cup and poured a trickle of cheap wine into the river, a silent, humble offering to Hebo, the river god. It's a reminder that here, the emperor's authority is secondary. The river has its own, older gods, and they demand respect. The journey to the other side is a long, tense 10 minutes. The water boils and swirls around you, carrying entire trees and clumps of debris in its relentless push to the sea. You feel utterly powerless, a tiny speck at the mercy of the water and an old man's skill. Then, with a jarring thud, the barge bumps against the far pier. You have crossed. The ferryman secures the rope, and you lead your trembling horse, who is only too happy to get back on solid ground, off the boat. You give the old man a respectful nod of thanks. He merely grunts in reply, already preparing for his return journey. You are on the south bank now. The river is behind you, but the memory of its raw power lingers as you remount your horse and ride on. Leaving the raw power of the Yellow River behind you is a profound relief. You ride south, away from its muddy banks, and for a few hours the terrain is gentle and forgiving. But the landscape cannot stay simple for long. As the afternoon wears on, you enter a new and profoundly strange world. The earth itself changes color, shifting from the dusty brown of the northern plains to a uniform, pale yellow, the color of ochre. The soil becomes finer, almost like powder. You have entered the Les Plateau. This is a landscape built of dust. For countless eons, winds blowing from the Gobi Desert have carried billions of tons of fine yellow silt and deposited it here, creating a plateau hundreds of meters thick. The result is a surreal, almost alien world. You've left the browns of the plains and the yellow of the river for a world made entirely of yellow dust. It seems the imperial landscape artist was working with a very limited color palette in this region. The road begins to wind through a maze of bizarre formations. The soft, loess soil, while stable when dry, has been carved by millennia of wind and water into a labyrinth of canyons, gullies, and razor-backed ridges. You ride along paths that cling to the sides of sheer cliffs, with vertiginous drops into the chasms below. The silence here is different from the silence of the plains. It's a deep, muffled quiet, as if the soft earth absorbs all sound. The only noises are the plodding of your horse's hooves in the thick dust and the occasional whisper of the wind through a narrow ravine. Navigating this terrain is a nightmare. The landscape is a confusing, repetitive maze of yellow canyons that all look the same. Worse, it's unstable. A single heavy rainstorm can wash away a section of road that has existed for a century, creating a new, impassable gully overnight. It's a fantastic feature of the imperial road system, you think. The path you followed last season might be a scenic gorge this time. It certainly keeps a traveler on his toes and fosters a deep appreciation for the yet-to-be-invented concept of pavement. You are constantly on edge, your eyes scanning not for bandits, but for signs of a recent landslide or a collapsing road edge. This is the very heartland of the ancient Chinese civilization, the cradle from which it all grew. But it's also the source of the Yellow River's misery. You can see the process with your own eyes. A trickle of water from a small spring cuts a tiny channel in the soft soil, which becomes a ditch, then a gully, then a canyon, carrying the lifeblood of the land, the yellow soil itself, downhill towards the great river. Historians and geographers of the future will debate how much of this devastating erosion was a natural process and how much was accelerated by the axes and plows of the first farmers thousands of years ago. Riding through it, you feel like you are witnessing a land slowly bleeding to death. Then you see something that stops you in your tracks. In the face of a sheer loess cliff, there is a perfectly arched doorway, with a heavy wooden door set into the earth. A thin tendril of smoke curls up from a small chimney hole cut into the ground far above the cliff face. It's a yaodong, a cave dwelling. People live here inside the earth. You ride on and see more of them, entire hidden communities carved into the yellow cliffs. These homes are said to be warm in the brutal winters and cool in the scorching summers, an ingenious adaptation to a land with little timber for building. It's a strange and humbling sight, a reminder of human resilience. People can make a home anywhere, even in a wall of dust. It's the ultimate in eco-friendly housing, and you bet they never have to deal with door-to-door salesmen. Your destination for the evening is a post station tucked deep inside one of these canyons. Finding it is a challenge, and you take a wrong turn twice, ending up in dead-end ravines that force you to backtrack. Finally, as dusk begins to paint the yellow cliffs in shades of orange and pink, you see the familiar sight of a walled compound. You are tired in a new way, your mind exhausted from the strain of constant, careful navigation. You have crossed the Loess Plateau's maze, a shifting, treacherous, and strangely beautiful world unlike any other. You leave the post station in the Loess Canyon at first light, your new horse picking its way carefully through the twisting ravines. By mid-morning, the landscape begins to change again. The narrow canyons and sheer cliffs give way to a wider, more open valley, and the road you are on broadens, becoming a well-defined highway. It is clear you have left the treacherous back routes behind and joined a major artery of travel. The proof comes in the form of a low, persistent cloud of dust on the horizon ahead, and a faint, rumbling sound that you can feel more than hear. It's the sound of traffic. An hour later, you catch up to the source. It's a merchant caravan, a slow-moving river of commerce flowing east. The sight is so different from the lonely emptiness you've grown accustomed to that you slow your horse to a trot, taking it all in. This is a different world, a different rhythm of life. They move at a speed that makes a glacier look impatient. Your journey is a frantic sprint measured in days. Theirs is a colossal pilgrimage measured in seasons. At the head and tail of the long column ride grim-faced guards, mercenaries armed with spears and strong bows, their eyes constantly scanning the surrounding hills. In between is the cargo. Dozens of huge, two-humped Bactrian camels, strung together in long lines, plod along with a swaying, unhurried gait. They watch you pass with an air of profound, ancient disdain, chewing their cud as if to say, "Look at this fool, always in a hurry." You've heard they can spit with alarming accuracy and have a temperament to match their sour expressions. You give them a wide berth. The camels are laden with wooden crates and bales of what you can only assume is the Empire's most famous export, silk. Bolts of the precious fabric, wrapped in thick canvas to protect them from the elements, are roped to their backs, destined for the markets of the far west. Interspersed between the camel trains are heavy, wooden carts, their iron-rimmed wheels groaning under the strain, pulled by teams of powerful oxen. These carry the heavier, less glamorous goods, pottery, iron tools, and lacquerware perhaps, along with all the supplies needed for a journey that will last for months. The air around the caravan is thick with the smell of dust, sweat, animals, and the smoke from the cooking fires of their last encampment. You hear the creak of wood, the jingle of harnesses, the lowing of oxen, and the babble of different voices, some speaking dialects you can barely understand. The merchants themselves ride on horseback, their clothes a mixture of practical leather and fine, if travel-stained silks. They are a different breed of man, their faces weathered not by a courier's windburn, but by 1,000 calculations of risk and reward. They are probably worried about profit margins and the market price of jade. You're worried about a prairie dog hole breaking your horse's leg. It's all a matter of perspective. This is the famous Silk Road in action, not as a line on a map, but as a living, breathing, smelling, and complaining organism. Historians in the future will debate the complex relationship between state power and private enterprise on these routes. Was this caravan a government-sponsored tribute mission, or a purely private venture of merchants risking their fortunes for a massive payoff? Looking at the mix of official-looking banners and the merchants' sharp, assessing eyes, it's probably a bit of both. You click your tongue and urge your horse into a canter, riding past the long column. A few of the guards turn to watch you, their hands resting on their weapons. But your official courier's tunic and the urgency of your pace mark you as no threat. You are part of the imperial infrastructure that, in theory, makes their journey possible. A symbol of the very government that protects and taxes them. In minutes, you have passed the entire caravan, from the rear guard to the lead scout. You look back one last time at the slow-moving beast of commerce, a dusty caterpillar crawling across the vast landscape. They are carrying the wealth of the empire outward. You are carrying its information inward. Your paths have crossed for only a moment, a brief intersection of two entirely different worlds, before you ride on, leaving them and their slow, lucrative dreams behind in a cloud of your own dust. The day after you pass the caravan, a new enemy attacks you. This one is not a bandit with a sword or a Xiongnu with a bow. It is an insidious, invisible foe that attacks from within. It starts as a simple, dull ache in your joints, an ache you initially dismiss as the usual complaint of a body pushed too hard. But as the morning wears on, the ache deepens, and a chill begins to creep into your bones, a profound cold that has nothing to do with the temperature of the air. You pull your tunic tighter, but the chill is inside you, a spreading ice that makes your teeth chatter. By midday, the chill has been replaced by its opposite, a raging internal fire. Your skin is hot and dry to the touch, and sweat begins to bead on your forehead and plaster your clothes to your body. Your body has decided to host its own private fire festival, and you are the main attraction. The world starts to lose its sharp edges. The steady rhythm of the horse's gait becomes a nauseating, jarring motion. The bright sunlight is a physical blow to your eyes, and the landscape wavers and swims before you. Of all the dramatic ways to meet your end on this road, it seems you're being taken down by a simple fever. It feels deeply, disappointingly anticlimactic. Every li becomes a battle of will. Your only goal, the only thought that can pierce the fog of your fever, is to make it to the next ting. You slump in the saddle, your head lolling, and let the horse plod forward, trusting its instincts to stay on the path. You drift in and out of a hazy, waking dream, the line between reality and fever-induced hallucination blurring. You are no longer a swift imperial courier, you are just a sick man desperately trying to stay upright. When the low, willow-fenced compound of the postal station finally appears through the haze, you almost sob with relief. You manage to guide your horse through the gate and slide more than dismount from the saddle, your legs giving way as you hit the ground. The station master, another grim-faced frontiersman, rushes out, his expression shifting from annoyance to alarm as he takes in your state. You try to present your credentials, but your hand shakes so badly you can't get the wooden tablet out of your tunic. You just manage to stammer the word sick before a wave of dizziness overwhelms you. The system you serve is designed for efficiency, not compassion. A sick rider is a broken cog in the machine. The correct official procedure would probably be to put you in an outbuilding until you either recover or die, and to send another rider on with the dispatch. But here, in this tiny, forgotten outpost, the rigid rules of the bureaucracy bend just a little. The station master's wife, a small, quiet woman with kind eyes and capable hands, comes out of the main hut. She takes one look at you, speaks a few sharp words to her husband, and then helps you to your feet. You are not left in a stable. She leads you to a small, windowless room at the back of their own living quarters. It's dark and smells of dried herbs and earth. She helps you onto a low pallet and pulls a coarse but clean blanket over you. It's the first act of genuine human kindness you have received since your journey began, and it's so unexpected it almost breaks you. Later, she returns with a steaming ceramic bowl. The liquid inside is dark and pungent, smelling of bark and bitter roots. "Drink," she says, her voice gentle. You struggle to sit up and she helps you, holding the bowl to your lips. It tastes like boiled twigs and profound regret, but it's hot, and it slides down your throat, warming you from the inside. This is not the sophisticated, theory-driven medicine of the capital's famous physicians. This is the folk medicine of the frontier, a collection of remedies passed down through generations. Historians will debate the efficacy of these ancient cures, but as the woman places a cool, damp cloth on your forehead, you know that the comfort and care are a powerful medicine in themselves. She is treating you not as a piece of the postal system, but as a human being. And for now, that is more than enough. You fall back into a deep, dreamless, healing sleep. You wake to the low murmur of voices. The fever has broken. The raging fire inside you has been put out, leaving behind a field of damp, exhausted ash. You feel weak, hollowed out, but blessedly clear-headed. It is a significant improvement. The station master's wife brings you a bowl of warm millet porridge, the same bland meal you had at the garrison, but this time it tastes like the most delicious food on earth. It is a taste of recovery, of life returning. You stay at the small station for a full day and another night, resting, regaining your strength. The woman asks for nothing in return, her kindness a simple, unadorned fact of your journey. On the second morning, you feel strong enough to ride. As you are in the courtyard checking the new horse the station master has provided, a commotion at the gate interrupts the morning quiet. A small patrol of 4 soldiers, their armor dusty and their faces hard, ride in. They are dragging a man between them, his hands bound tightly, his face a mask of terror and dried blood. He's a mail thief. The Tingzhang, the station master who had initially greeted you with such indifference, is now transformed. He is no longer just a keeper of horses. He is the embodiment of imperial law in this small patch of dirt. His face is a grim, unforgiving mask of authority. The soldiers haul the prisoner before him, forcing him to his knees. One of the soldiers presents a stolen leather dispatch satchel, its cords cut, its clay seal shattered. It is the ultimate crime on this road. Stealing from a merchant is simple banditry. Interfering with the emperor's post is an act of treason. It's a truly catastrophic career choice. There is no lengthy trial. There is no defense attorney. The evidence is presented. The verdict is immediate. Justice on the frontier is as swift and harsh as the landscape itself. Historians still debate the consistency with which the famously severe Han legal codes were applied. But for a crime like this, against the state itself, there is no room for mercy. The station master barks an order. 2 soldiers hold the prisoner down while a third disappears into the forge and returns with a long iron rod, its tip glowing a malevolent orange. The prisoner begins to scream, a high, thin sound of pure terror. The station master recites the crime and the punishment in a loud, formal monotone, ensuring everyone in the small compound can hear. The punishment is to be branded on the face, a permanent mark of his crime. It is one of the ancient 5 punishments, a sentence designed not just to cause pain, but to inflict a lifetime of shame and ostracism. The glowing iron is brought closer. You want to turn away, but you can't. You are a part of this system, and you need to see it to understand its full, brutal nature. The brand is applied. The horrifying sizzle and the smell of burnt flesh are sickening. The prisoner's scream is cut short as he faints from the pain. The soldiers douse his face with a bucket of water, the steam rising from the new, raw wound. They haul his limp body to a post and tie him there, a living warning to anyone who might contemplate a similar crime. The whole event is a brutally effective public service announcement with a very clear message. Do not touch the mail. You finish saddling your horse, your hands trembling slightly. The kindness you received from the station master's wife and the brutal justice you just saw administered by her husband are 2 sides of the same coin. One is the personal human face of the frontier. The other is the cold, impersonal fist of the state. Both are necessary to keep this system running. You mount your horse, give a final grateful nod to the woman who saved you, and ride out of the gate. You don't look back at the branded man on the post. You can feel the weight of your own intact dispatch, a sacred, dangerous object resting against your chest. The law of the road has never been clearer. You ride hard for the rest of the day, driven by a desire to put as much distance as possible between you and the grim memory of the branded thief. The image is burned into your mind, a stark lesson in the brutal calculus of imperial power. The system that had shown you a moment of personal kindness also possesses this capacity for cold, calculated cruelty. You push your horse, welcoming the physical exhaustion as a way to numb the disquiet in your soul. The next day, something remarkable happens. The world begins to turn green. It starts subtly at first. The ubiquitous yellow dust of the Loess Plateau gives way to a darker, richer soil. You see more streams, their banks lined with willows and reeds. Hardy grasses appear. And then, you ride over a ridge and the landscape unfolds before you in a patchwork of vibrant, shocking green. After weeks of a world painted in shades of brown, yellow, and gray, the sheer intensity of the color is a physical jolt to the senses. You had almost forgotten that plants came in this particular shade. You have entered the Guangzhong Plain, the agricultural heartland of the empire. This is the fertile basin that feeds the capital, a land of unparalleled abundance. The road is no longer a lonely track, but a bustling thoroughfare, crowded with pedestrians, farmers driving ox carts laden with produce, and even the occasional official being carried in a litter. You've gone from being the only person for 50 li to having to actively steer your horse to avoid collisions. It's a new and complex navigational challenge. The air itself is different. It's thick and humid, carrying the smell of wet earth, growing things, and livestock. It's not exactly the perfumed air of a palace garden. It smells of pigs, chickens, manure, and humanity. But it's the smell of life, dense and vibrant. And it's a welcome change from the clean, sterile scent of endless dust. You ride past meticulously irrigated fields of wheat and vegetables, the water flowing through a complex network of man-made canals that glint in the sun. This is the engine room of the Han Dynasty, the source of the grain that fills the army's bellies and the taxes that fill the emperor's treasury. You see farmers working in the fields, and you notice their tools are more advanced than the simple hoes and spades you've seen elsewhere. Several are pushing clever-looking contraptions made of wood and iron, seeder drills with multiple pipes that plant seeds in perfect, efficient rows. It is a piece of agricultural technology that allows them to produce far more food with less waste, a small sign of the sophistication that supports the empire's power. As you ride, you observe the farmsteads themselves. Some are tidy and prosperous looking, with stout mud brick walls, well-fed animals and tiled roofs. Others are little more than hovels, their inhabitants looking thin and worn down. Historians of the future will endlessly debate the true standard of living for the Han peasant. Were they sturdy, independent farmers, the backbone of the nation? Or were they mostly landless tenants, crushed by debt and taxes owed to wealthy land-grabbing elites? Looking at the evidence on either side of the road, you suspect the truth is a messy mix of both. Around noon, you ride through a large village, the first real settlement of any size you've seen in over a week. It's a chaotic, vibrant explosion of human activity. The main street is lined with open-fronted shops selling everything from iron tools to cheap pottery. A tea house is full of noisy patrons, their laughter and arguments spilling out into the street. Dogs bark, children chase chickens underfoot, and a blacksmith's hammer rings out in a steady metallic rhythm. The sheer density of people is overwhelming after so long in the solitary wilderness of the frontier. You feel exposed, your courier's urgency an awkward contrast to the settled, daily rhythms of village life. You are an outsider here, a ghost from another world just passing through. You don't stop. Your mission doesn't allow for leisurely breaks in a tea house. You push on through the crowd, your pace slowed to a walk until you are out the other side and back among the green fields. The frontier, with its stark beauty and clear, immediate dangers, already feels like a distant memory. You have passed into another country, one that is softer, greener, more crowded, and in its own way more complicated. The capital, Chang'an, is close now. You can feel it, a low hum of power on the horizon, drawing you steadily toward the heart of the empire. For 2 more days, you ride through the green, civilized heartland. The postal stations are larger, better supplied, and the horse swaps are even faster, the system operating at peak efficiency the closer you get to the center of power. The road is constantly busy now. You are no longer a solitary rider, but one traveler among 1,000, a single drop in a steady human river flowing towards the capital. The road has become the ancient world's first traffic jam, a chaotic procession of farmers' carts, marching soldiers, merchants with their mules, and scholars riding in covered litters. Everyone seems convinced they have the right of way. The air thickens with the smoke of countless cook fires and workshops. You ride past the sprawling, unplanned suburbs that cluster outside the city proper. Pottery kilns belching black smoke, stinking tanneries, and noisy carpentry shops. The sheer human density is a shock to your system, which has been calibrated to the vast, empty spaces of the frontier. And then you see it. It appears on the horizon not as a building or a tower, but as a low, solid line that seems to hold up the sky, a man-made geological feature. As you get closer, the line rises, growing impossibly tall, resolving itself into the colossal walls of Chang'an. You saw the Great Wall at the start of your journey and it was impressive. This is something else entirely. This is like the Great Wall's bigger, angrier, more sophisticated brother. It's less a wall, and more an artificial mountain range, a declaration of imperial might so absolute it borders on arrogance. Like the frontier wall, it's built of rammed earth, the hang-to technique perfected and executed on a monstrous scale. You can see the faint horizontal lines left by the wooden forms, layer upon layer of pounded dirt, so compressed over the centuries it has become as hard as stone. The base is immensely thick, and the wall slopes inward as it soars to a height that makes your neck ache to look at. Watchtowers, tall and imposing, punctuate the wall's length, their tiled roofs glinting in the sun. As you follow the road towards the main southern gate, you notice something odd about the wall's line. It's not perfectly straight. It seems to have a strange, shallow zigzag pattern. You've heard whispers that the city's builders, guided by court astrologers, designed the walls to mirror the constellations, the southern side tracing the shape of the Big Dipper. From the ground, you can't see the grand cosmic pattern, but you can see the results. A wall that seems to buck and weave, imbued with a strange, mystical energy. The area outside the gate is a maelstrom of humanity. A temporary city of market stalls, food vendors, and beggars has sprung up here, catering to those waiting to enter or having just left. The noise is a physical force, a roar composed of 1,000 voices, the braying of donkeys, the squeal of cartwheels, and the shouts of city guards. You push your way through the throng, your horse skittish and overwhelmed. The gate itself is a massive tunnel piercing the impossibly thick wall, big enough for several carts to pass through at once. It's guarded by a contingent of elite soldiers, their bronze armor polished to a mirror shine, their halberds held with a discipline you never saw in the rough frontier garrisons. They have an air of supreme professional boredom, as if they've seen everything the world has to offer pass through this gate and were deeply unimpressed by all of it. You could probably arrive astride a talking tiger, and they would simply ask to see your travel papers. You present your wooden jai to a gate official, who inspects it with a cursory but practiced eye. He looks at the sealed dispatch on your chest, notes your official tunic, and gives a sharp nod to the guards. You are waved through. Historians and archaeologists will one day debate the exact population of this sprawling metropolis, but as you pass through the gate, you are hit by the irrefutable reality of it. People. More people than you have ever seen in one place. You ride out of the darkness of the gate tunnel and into the teeming, chaotic, overwhelming reality of Chang'an, the capital of the world. The journey is over. The destination has been reached. If the world outside the gates was a chaotic river of humanity, the world inside is a raging flood. You ride out from the shadow of the gatehouse into a main thoroughfare, and the sensory assault is instantaneous and total. The sheer volume of noise is the first thing that hits you. It's a physical pressure on your ears, a deafening cacophony of thousands of shouting voices, the rumble of iron-rimmed wheels on stone-paved sections of the road, the braying of mules, the clanging of blacksmiths' hammers from down a side alley, and the high-pitched music of a street performer's flute. After the profound silence of the plains, this is a disorienting shock. Your horse, a sturdy frontier animal, is terrified. It shies and sidesteps, its eyes wide, its ears twitching in every direction, trying to process 1,000 new sounds at once. You keep a firm grip on the reins, your own senses equally overwhelmed. The street is impossibly wide, broad enough for a dozen carriages to drive abreast, a testament to the grand vision of the city's planners. But its great width is still barely enough to contain the teeming, swarming mass of people that fills it from one side to the other. There are no traffic laws here, only the physics of momentum and mass. A nobleman's lacquered carriage, pulled by 4 proud horses, plows through the crowd with arrogant impunity, while a poor farmer with a handcart is shoved to the side. As a man on a horse, you occupy a precarious middle ground in this urban ecosystem. The smells are a complex, layered assault. The city has its own unique and unforgettable perfume. Roasting chestnuts from a street vendor, scart the sharp tang of vinegar from a pickle shop, the cloying sweetness of incense wafting from a wealthy residence, all underscored by the ever-present pungent stench of open drainage ditches, animal dung, and thousands of unwashed human bodies. It's a potent brew, the smell of 1,000,000 lives being lived in close proximity. You must constantly be on alert. A child darts out from between 2 carts. A pack of stray dogs engages in a sudden, vicious fight, and a clumsy porter drops a pole laden with baskets, spilling its contents across the road. You're offered everything from a hot, steaming bun to a cheap jade amulet to what a man with a wild look in his eye insists is a genuine phoenix feather. The raw, unfiltered energy of it all is intoxicating and terrifying. Your goal is the Weiyang Palace, the administrative and residential heart of the empire, which you know lies in the southwestern part of the city. You keep the sun on your left as a guide and push your way through the throng. You pass the towering walled enclosure of one of the city's 2 great markets. A drum is beating from a tower above its gate, signaling that it is open for business, and a tide of people is trying to surge in and out at the same time. Through the gate, you catch a glimpse of a world of wonders. Stalls piled high with shimmering silks, exotic spices in huge sacks, gleaming bronze mirrors, and strange-looking foreigners haggling in unknown tongues. You see patrols of city guards, their red-tasseled spears a small island of order in the chaos. They seem to be focused more on preventing riots at the market gate than on directing the flow of traffic. Historians will one day debate how effectively a city of this staggering size was policed, whether it was a place of relative order or constant, simmering danger. From what you can see, it seems to be a system of managed chaos, a city that functions not because of rigid control, but in spite of its near-total absence. Every face you see is a story. The proud scholar in his fine robes, the weary peasant with his load of firewood, the painted courtesan peering from behind a curtain in her litter, the tattooed laborer with his muscles gleaming with sweat. After so many days of seeing only the sky and the earth, the sheer variety of human life is dizzying. This is the center of the world you have been riding towards, the destination of the dispatch you carry. It's not just a place on a map. It's a living, breathing, shouting, stinking, beautiful and monstrous organism, and you are now in its belly. It takes you the better part of an hour to cross the city. You slowly learn its rhythms, how to navigate the currents of its human river, and eventually, you find your way into the southwestern quarter. Here, the character of the city changes dramatically. The narrow, chaotic alleyways give way to broad, tree-lined avenues. The noisy, open-fronted shops are replaced by the high, blank walls of wealthy estates and government buildings. The crowds thin out, and those you do see are different. Officials in flowing silk robes, their faces serene and serious. Clerks hurrying along with bundles of bamboo slips and noblewomen in elegant curtained carriages. You've entered the VIP section of the city. The streets are cleaner, there are fewer stray animals, and the air is quieter, filled only with a low, respectful hum. Then you see it, rising above the elegant tiled roofs of the surrounding mansions. Another wall. This is the barrier you have been seeking, the final destination. This is the perimeter of the Weiyang Palace. The palace is not a single building. It is a city in its own right. A vast walled enclosure that occupies a massive portion of Chang'an. Its name, Weiyang, means unending. And as you gaze at the sheer scale of its fortifications, the name feels entirely appropriate. The walls are as tall as the main cities, but they are faced with polished stone at the base and capped with gleaming, green-glazed roof tiles that seem to drink the sunlight. This is not the raw, brutal earth of the frontier defenses. This is power expressed as refined, unassailable art. You ride towards the main eastern gate, the primary entrance for officials and messengers. The avenue leading to it is wide and almost empty, adding to the intimidating sense of scale. The gatehouse itself is a monumental structure, a multi-storied tower with a triple-eaved roof, its wooden beams painted with vibrant reds and golds, banners bearing the imperial dragon whip and snap in the breeze. Standing guard are not the common city soldiers, but members of the Northern Army, the Emperor's elite household guards. They are terrifyingly immaculate. Their black lacquer armor is so polished you can see the sky reflected in it, and their bronze-tipped halberds are held with inhuman stillness. They look as if they were individually carved from granite and then brought to life by a sorcerer. They make the hardened veterans of the frontier look like scruffy, undisciplined children. As you approach, you become acutely, painfully aware of your own appearance. You are covered in a thick layer of dust from a dozen provinces. Your tunic is sweat-stained and frayed. You smell of horse, road, and exhaustion. In this pristine, ordered world of imperial majesty, you are a dirty, travel-worn blemish. You feel the weight of 100 dispassionate eyes upon you, the guards tracking your approach with silent professional appraisal. You halt your horse a respectful distance from the gate and dismount. Your legs are shaky, not just from the long ride, but from a new kind of nervousness, an awe that borders on fear. You are at the very epicenter of the empire, the place from which all power flows. You imagine the wonders within these walls. The great audience halls, the imperial gardens, the archives holding the records of centuries, and perhaps even the almost magical inventions of the court's cleverest minds, like intricate water-powered astronomical devices that map the heavens. Historians will forever debate the precise layout of the hundreds of buildings within this vast complex, but its purpose is singular and clear: to project absolute, unquestionable authority. A stern-faced captain of the guard, his helmet adorned with a plume of red feathers, strides towards you. His armor doesn't jingle. It makes a low, menacing hiss as he moves. He doesn't shout. He doesn't need to. His voice is low and sharp. State your business. You hold out your wooden credential, your hand surprisingly steady. Imperial courier, you say, your voice hoarse. Urgent dispatch from the Juyan Commandery for the governor's office. The captain takes your G and examines it, his eyes missing nothing. He looks at the sealed satchel on your chest, then back at your face, his gaze lingering for a moment as if committing your dusty features to memory. He seems to come to a decision. Without a word, he turns and gives a sharp, almost imperceptible nod to the guards at the gate. One of them steps forward to take your horse's reins, while the captain simply says, "Follow me." The great gates remain closed. You are not to enter the palace proper, but you have been granted access. You have reached the final threshold. You follow the captain of the guard, your dusty boots feeling clumsy and loud on the meticulously swept stone pavers of an outer courtyard. The air in here is still and cool, sheltered from the city's clamor by the immense palace walls. The scale of everything is designed to make a man feel small. The columns are enormous, the roof eaves impossibly high. It's a quiet, intimidating world of power and precision. The captain leads you not toward one of the grand ceremonial halls, but to a long, low, and severely functional-looking building. This is the administrative nervous system of the palace, the place where the real, day-to-day work of running an empire is done. He shows you into a small windowless room. A single oil lamp burns steadily, casting a soft glow on a scene of intense, scholarly order. The walls are lined with floor-to-ceiling wooden shelves, and on those shelves are thousands of neatly bound and labeled bundles of bamboo slips. It is a library of governance, a vast archive of reports, decrees, and memoranda. The room smells of dry bamboo, ink, and time itself. Behind a low wooden desk sits a man. He is not a general or a nobleman. He is a functionary, a senior clerk, a man whose entire life is dedicated to the flow of information. He is of indeterminate middle age, with a thin beard and the pale complexion of someone who rarely sees the sun. His silk robes are simple but immaculate, though the cuffs are stained with ink. He looks up as you enter, his eyes sharp and intelligent, but his expression is one of supreme professional weariness. He has the unimpressed look of a man who has processed 1,000 urgent dispatches from every corner of the known world. To him, you are not a heroic figure who has endured a 1,000-lie journey. You are the 3 o'clock delivery. The guard captain announces your arrival and purpose, then leaves you alone with the clerk. The silence in the room is broken only by the soft hiss of the lamp. The clerk gestures with a long, slender finger. The dispatch. You untie the leather straps of the satchel. Your hands, which have been so sure on the reins of a galloping horse, feel clumsy now. You pull out the bundle of bamboo slips. It has been your constant companion for what feels like a lifetime. A weighty, sacred object pressed against your chest through heat, cold, sickness, and fear. You place it carefully on the polished surface of his desk. The clerk doesn't open it. He first inspects the reddish-brown clay seal, the roaring tiger of the Julian commandery. He examines it from all angles, his practiced eye looking for any sign of tampering. Satisfied, he turns to a large open logbook, itself a massive collection of bound wooden slips, and dipping his brush in ink, he begins to write. He notes the date, the time, the origin of the dispatch, and a brief description of you, the courier. There is a surprising amount of paperwork involved in delivering the paperwork. When he is finished, he pushes a small wooden slip and an ink box towards you. "Your mark," he says. "You are not a scholar. You don't possess a fancy carved yin seal with your name on it like an official would. You do what you have always done. You press your right thumb onto the sticky red ink paste and then press it firmly onto the wooden slip, leaving a clear, whirled print. It is your signature, an undeniable physical confirmation that your mission is complete." The clerk takes the slip, blows on the ink to dry it, and places it in a small box. Only now does he reach out and take formal possession of the dispatch. The moment his clean, ink-stained fingers close around the bamboo bundle and lift it from the desk, a profound change occurs within you. The weight is gone. Not just the physical weight of the object, but the immense crushing weight of responsibility that has been your constant companion since you left the shadow of the Great Wall. You feel suddenly, strangely light, as if you might float away. You have been defined by this single purpose for so long that its absence leaves you feeling hollow, empty. The clerk places the dispatch in a designated tray on his desk. It will now continue its journey, not on horseback, but through the labyrinthine channels of the palace bureaucracy. Historians will debate the exact archival processes, how this information was copied, distributed, and stored in the vast, complex machine of the Han government. But that is no longer your concern. The clerk gives you a curt, dismissive nod. It's over. You have done your duty. You turn, bow stiffly, and walk out of the quiet, lamp-lit room, back into the bright, indifferent sunlight of the courtyard. You stand in the vast, sun-drenched courtyard, blinking. The guard captain who brought you in is gone. The clerk is back to his records. The palace, having received what it wanted from you, has already forgotten you exist. For weeks, you have had a single, all-consuming purpose that has driven you through every waking moment and haunted your brief, exhausted sleep. Now that purpose is gone. The silence it leaves behind is deafening. You are a tool that has been used and set aside, and you have no idea what to do next. There is no fanfare. There is no one to clap you on the back and say, "Well done, you survived." The greatest, most arduous journey of your life has concluded with all the ceremony of a scroll being placed on a shelf. You feel a strange, almost laughable sense of anticlimax. You've just physically connected the farthest edge of the empire to its absolute core, a living thread of sinew and willpower. And nobody here knows or cares. You are utterly, completely anonymous. For a few minutes, you simply wander. You are in the outer courts, a vast, sprawling area of plazas, administrative buildings, and service quarters. It's a world away from the chaotic city outside the walls, and a million miles from the desolate frontier you call home. Everything here is orderly, clean, and immense. Columns of officials walk with brisk, important strides along covered walkways. Platoons of guards drill in a distant square, their movements so synchronized they seem like a single organism. Servants and eunuchs hurry past, their eyes downcast, their faces impassive masks of professional deference. Everyone has a place, a function, a reason for being in this meticulously organized world. You are the only one who is still. You watch a guard at the corner of a long gallery marking the passage of time. He's not looking at a water clock, but a large, elegant stand holding a glass vessel filled with fine, white sand, a sand clock, a klepsamia. As you watch, he carefully inverts the device, the sand beginning its silent, steady pour into the lower bulb. It's another small, quiet symbol of the immense controlling order of this place, a world that measures time not by the sun, but by its own precise instruments. You are a man of the frontier. Your life is defined by dust, distance, and the simple, brutal realities of survival. This world of intrigue, of whispered conversations and subtle gestures, is as alien to you as the bottom of the sea. You are a coarse, rough-hewn thing in a world of polished jade and lacquered wood. For weeks you were a man with a vital mission. Now your primary purpose is to avoid looking out of place and getting arrested. It feels like a significant downgrade. You think about your journey, the pre-dawn cold at the Great Wall, the terror of the Yellow River, the fever that almost took you, the face of the branded thief. All that sweat, all that fear, all that pain was expended to deliver a small bundle of bamboo to a bored clerk in a quiet room. And he has probably already handed it off to someone else and forgotten your face. Historians will someday debate the possibilities of social mobility in the Han Empire, wondering if a common man who performed his duty with distinction could rise through the ranks. But standing here, an invisible speck in the shadow of imperial power, you feel the answer in your bones. Your reward is that you survived. That is all. A high-ranking minister's entourage sweeps through the courtyard, a flurry of silk, lacquer, and armed retainers. Everyone in his path, including you, flattens themselves against a wall in a gesture of profound respect and deference. He doesn't even glance in your direction. He has no idea that the critical intelligence from the northern frontier that will be placed on his desk this afternoon arrived because you rode for 16 hours a day, and he never will. The realization isn't bitter. It is simply a fact, as solid and unchangeable as the palace walls around you. You are a courier. Your value is in your movement, your anonymity, your reliability. You are not meant to be seen or celebrated. You are the unseen current that allows the great ships of state to sail. And with that thought, a sense of peace settles over you. Your purpose is not gone, it is just complete. For now, you have done your job. You turn and walk back towards the gate to find your horse and to lose yourself in the loud, messy, anonymous city. beyond these silent, imposing walls. You retrieve your horse, which has been held by a palace groom. The animal looks as out of place as you feel. You swing into the saddle one last time and ride away from the silent, imposing grandeur of the Weiyang Palace, back into the loud, messy, beautifully chaotic embrace of Chang'an. But this time your perspective is different. You are no longer a man on a mission, a tense, focused projectile aimed at the city's heart. You are just a traveler, weary to the bone, looking for a place to rest. You navigate the streets, letting the currents of the crowd guide you away from the opulent administrative district and into the more common quarters of the city. Here the streets are narrower, the buildings smaller, and the energy more vibrant and less formal. You see vendors selling hot food, children playing a noisy game with stones, and people simply sitting in their doorways, talking and watching the world go by. It's a world away from the silent windswept plains and a world away from the silent guarded palace. It is simply a world of people. After asking for directions from a friendly-looking baker, you find what you're looking for. A luxe, a common lodging house for travelers. It's a modest, two-story wooden building on a side street, with a large gate leading into a central courtyard. It's not the Weiyang Palace, but it has 4 walls and a roof that doesn't appear to be leaking, which immediately places it in the upper echelon of accommodations you've experienced on this journey. The innkeeper is a stout, balding man with a surprisingly cheerful demeanor. He quotes you a price for a room for the night and a place in his stable for your horse. You reach into the small pouch on your belt and untie the string that holds your bronze wuju coins. You count out the required number, the heavy metallic discs with their square central holes feeling solid and real in your hand. It is the first commercial transaction you have made in weeks. It is the first time you have had to think about your own needs, your own lodging, your own purse. You take your horse to the stable in the courtyard yourself. As you slide the saddle from its back for the last time, you feel a pang of gratitude for this animal and for all the others that carried you here. This one seems to understand that its duty is done. It gives a low nicker and immediately sticks its head in a trough of fresh water. You can almost hear it sighing with relief, glad to be finished with the whole cross-country marathon. You give its neck a final pat and leave it in the care of a stable boy. The room the innkeeper gives you is small, clean, and contains little more than a sleeping pallet stuffed with fresh-smelling straw and a single tallow lamp. To you, it is the most luxurious chamber in the world. Historians will debate how safe and regulated these private inns were, but this one feels like a sanctuary. You bar the wooden door, and for the first time in what feels like an eternity, you are truly, securely alone. There is no one to see, no schedule to keep, no danger to watch for. You sit on the edge of the pallet, and it is only now in the safety and silence of this small room that the full weight of your journey finally descends upon you. Exhaustion is no longer just a feeling you are fighting against. It has become a physical presence, a heavy blanket that settles over your shoulders, your limbs, your very soul. You have no strength left to fight it, and no desire to. The memories of the ride flash through your mind not as a coherent story, but as a series of disjointed dreamlike images. The immense shadow of the Great Wall, the terror in your horse's eyes on the Yellow River ferry, the kind face of the station master's wife, the horrifying glow of the branding iron, the sea of green fields, the endless river of faces in the city. It all seems to have happened to someone else in another lifetime. The innkeeper, i.e. wife, brings you a simple meal of steamed bread and a bowl of thick vegetable soup. You eat it slowly, mechanically, your body craving the nourishment, but your mind already beginning to drift. You blow out the lamp, plunging the room into a soft, welcome darkness. You lie down on the pallet, your body sinking into the straw. The weight is gone from your chest. The mission is complete. There is nothing left to do, nothing but rest. The story of your journey is over now. You can feel the deep, profound exhaustion finally claiming the rider as he sinks into the straw of his simple bed. The noises of the great city outside fading into a distant, gentle hum. And just as his long, arduous road has come to its quiet, peaceful end, so too can yours. The duty is done, the message has been delivered, and the immense weight of that long, long ride has been lifted. There are no more rivers to cross, no more desolate plains to navigate under the cold, watchful eyes of the stars. There is only the safety of these 4 walls, the comfort of this moment and the deep, welcoming stillness that waits for you now. Feel that stillness spreading through you, a gentle wave of calm, loosening the tight knots of the day, soothing the weary muscles, quieting the busy thoughts. There is nothing left for you to do either, nothing to carry, nowhere else to go. You can let go of the reins now. You can allow your own tired horse to finally come to a stop. Just listen to the soft sound of your own breathing, a quiet, steady rhythm in the peaceful dark, as you drift slowly, gently, down into a deep and well-earned sleep. The journey is over. It is time to rest.